I think people talk about the highline system as if it's inherently a dangerous or bad thing to do. It absolutely comes with its positives. It allows for the attack that they have, and at times it can be suffocating to the opponent.
Let's talk about these big three for La Liga. Atletico Madrid taking on Alaves tomorrow. Real Madrid against Mallorca. And Barcelona visiting Rayo Vallecano. The big three in action. Let's talk about them because Real Madrid, Barcelona, good start to their seasons. Atletico Madrid, not so much. And I'm concerned about Atletico Madrid because I really don't know what their identity is. And I'm not sure we could ever say that about a Diego Simeone side because we usually know kind of how he wants to play. I'm not sure he knows exactly how he wants to play with the current setup that he has and the current players he has. What's going on?
Well, I think he recognizes that they do need to turn over the team a little bit and become something else because the previous identity, I think, has a bit of a ceiling. And it's an incredibly high ceiling. They won multiple La Liga titles. They've gotten to a Champions League final. They have continually had success that previously at Atletico Madrid was not as consistent or as common as it is now. Now he has resource. Now you can no longer play the role of underdog. You have to kind of play the role of favorite. And so far, they've yet to even play any of the other traditional big Spanish giants. And every time in the past he's turned this over, he spent a lot of money on trying to turn over an identity at the club. He kind of goes back to the regulars. But you look at the squad now, the regulars are kind of gone. Yeah. They're long gone are the days of Diego Godin, of Koke, of even Rodrigo de Paul, who I think brought a lot of that bite and intensity in midfield. And so you don't really turn to those players. And so now he has to figure out, with the current group of players, how to make it work with your Almadas, your Payenas, Alvarez, even Griezmann in forward positions. You have to figure it out with those guys and create something different for them. I actually think that, yes, it is an identity crisis, and they have not started the season well in terms of results. I'm not as worried, though, because in watching their performances, I actually think that they are starting to find a little bit more of a chance creation mechanism. If you look at the games that they've lost, they've failed to define the key moments of the game. Alexander Sorloth and Julian Alvarez have had big chances to put games away that they have not taken. So I'm not massively worried, but it is a different thing for Simeone, and the more the results go wrong, the margin for error at the top of La Liga is so thin. You have 1 point from 6, you leave yourself in a spot of bother.
And I think it comes to a point where even Diego Simeone, a club legend, as you see here, I mean, he's going to start to feel the pressure if it doesn't go well and if things start kind of spiral out of control. You have Julian Alvarez, seems like he's not very happy as well, and that's saying something. Rodrigo de Paul leaving was also a peculiar situation for him. I'm still a little bit worried. I don't know if they can really truly figure this out. We have a little bit of time here, but I think the pressure will be on Simeone. Yeah. I think for the first time in a long time where it's actual pressure here to get this team going.
They spent a lot of money. Spent a lot of money on him and a lot of money on the team. And at some point, it's not just necessarily going and winning the Champions League or La Liga. It's about actually being at their level. Because yes, they were top of La Liga in January last year, but come the end of the season, were they at their level? No, they were not.
Yeah, not even close. Real Madrid this weekend will be hosting Mallorca. And again, this is a Real Madrid side that is in a period of transition with Xabi Alonso. And Mbappe is still the guy. We clearly know and we see that. But another player who's absolutely been incredible is Arda Güler. He is a joy to watch. This youngster from Turkey has been fantastic for Real Madrid. How important is he this season for Xabi Alonso and what he wants to do on the pitch? With a plethora of attacking players that they have, he's still been one of the first choices.
And you're right. I think you look at last year's team, you would have said there is a group of players behind the regular starters that are not necessarily ready to displace him in the team. So you look at, obviously, the first choice team, we've said it a million times, is Tchouaméni, Valverde in midfield, Jude Bellingham in the 10, Vinny, Mbappe, Rodrigo. And there were players behind them, Endrick being one, Arda Güler being another, Dani Ceballos, Brahim Diaz, now Franco Mastantuono has come in. All these players that are behind that group, and how are you going to figure out a way through? But the manager has come in and clearly valued something else. And for Güler, I think the most important thing, especially what we've seen in the first 2 games of Real Madrid this season, is they will be much more possession-based. They had a lot of control of the ball in those first 2 games. They had such a hard time picking the lock. It's a different thing than how they played under Ancelotti, where, yeah, they would have games where they dominate possession, but they would also almost be fine seeding possession so they can be in more advantageous positions to hit out on the break, get the ball into wide areas, and give Vinny and Mbappe space to roam in. I think now that they're operating in tighter windows, you need a little bit more technical players, and you need that individual development to occur from Xabi Alonso with players like Güler and Brahim Diaz to open the spaces and figure out ways through, because otherwise it's a difficult situation that a lot of players find themselves in at Real Madrid. I think they've looked stodgy at times in those first two games, particularly at the beginning of games as they're trying to figure their way out in the system.
We did see Xabi kind of unlock Florian Wirtz in his time at Leverkusen. We're kind of seeing the same now maybe here with Arda Güler. He had obviously come through under Ancelotti. This Real Madrid side, you mentioned it though, it seemed slow, especially in game week 1, a little less so in game week 2. But I think it's just kind of trying to figure out the system, right? Trying to figure out how exactly they want to play under Xabi Alonso.
Yeah, and I think this is a period of transition that was upset, I think, by the Club World Cup. Because if they didn't have the Club World Cup this summer, players would have been off. You think about some of the other teams that have brought in new managers or new identities that didn't have to play at this tournament, or even Barcelona didn't have to play at this tournament, and they can start off on a little bit of a quicker foot because they've gone through the whole preseason. They've integrated all the pieces that they were to bring in, whereas Real Madrid are still kind of putting the plane together in the air. And I think that is going to be difficult for them until we get to really the difficult points of the season. Let's be very clear. They'll be towards the top of the La Liga title race, and they'll be well within the Champions League knockout round places or the top 8 come the end of November, December. So what's the beginning of the season about? It's about implementing the process, about everyone developing a chemistry in this new system and figuring out who you're going to be for the whole season.
We head to Barcelona, and as usual, right, they are the betting favorites to win La Liga. And it's kind of the same conversation as far as we know they're going to score tons of goals this year, and they may be conceding a few goals as well. And here's some of the summer activity, obviously bringing in Marcus Rashford on loan, Garcia as well from Espanyol. Some interesting signings for them for sure. Is it enough, though, to address the concerns that we do have, specifically defensively, but just overall for this Barcelona team that, look, it's expected to win La Liga, but I think the big prize is the Champions League, that's what they're after?
I mean, the answer is no. It's not, but it might be good enough anyway, because I think the number one transfer business that they can do is internal improvement. And I think that can continue to happen with as young as the squad is, having won La Liga last season, having forged an identity. The one thing, though, that I think that they are missing in looking at this team is an organizing central defender. Inigo Martinez left to Saudi Arabia on a free transfer, by the way. But he is basically replaced in the team by Ronald Araujo, who I think is a physically good defender, but I don't think organizes this defense. They don't really have anyone, especially with Jules Koundé, who's out of late. They don't have anyone who keeps that line organized, which is perhaps the most important thing with the system that they employ. I think people talk about the high line system as if it's inherently a dangerous or bad thing to do. It absolutely comes with its positives. It allows for the attack that they have, and at times it can be suffocating to the opponent. But if you're not organized, and the left back is 3 steps forward of everyone else or 3 steps behind everyone else, that allows the space and the opportunity for teams to play in behind, and so far opponents have done. So I think if there is anything for them to do in the transfer market, it would be to go to get an organizing central defender, but they don't have the money. And
right.
we can't say, oh, they've got to go spend. They don't have the money. And it has been the case for several years now. We can send it to a blue in the face. They can pull as many levers as they want. They can do as much as they want to try and find some money in the couch cushions. They don't have any money. So what can they do? Maybe go sell a player. I think that they could really genuinely benefit from selling 1 or 2 of their pieces. You look at that midfield, they've got 6. Do you need all 6? And Hansi Flick has come out and said, yes, I do. But at a certain point, the football club does have to recognize the reality of the situation. And you look at some of the clubs that are having success right now in the transfer market. Liverpool have made a ton of money in sales. Chelsea have made a ton of money in sales. There is a benefit of selling to buy, even at the level of Barcelona, even at the level of wanting to win your domestic league and wanting to go win the Champions League. Sales can facilitate that. And so if they are to try and figure out any other solutions, they might have to sell, let's say, Fermin Lopez, who's been linked with a move to the Premier League in this window. That might be beneficial for them. Or they can just say, you know what? We're going to write it out with the players that we've got, and we'll get better because they're young, and that's how young players improve, is with time and experience.
And Hansi Flick does have a track record of improving younger players. He's not going to change the system. He's not going to change playing that high line. And I respect it, but as you mentioned, having a guy in the back that can control everything, calm everything down, making sure that that back line is on the same line consistently will go such a long way for this Barcelona side if they're able to fund that transfer somehow. We will see.